Hi everybody, I'm Dave Farson and I'm back again with another video. So I have acquired in recent years a small number of vintage cookbooks as I find they're a very interesting time capsule into the past. Now a lot of them are your standard cookbooks for individual households. They're made for a family to sit down together and have a meal together. Now they exist to provide meals for a very small family, but what if you have a large group? What if it's 1942? What if you need to get your hands on a copy of How to Cook for 40 Humans even though The Simpsons won't be a thing for another 40 plus years? Well, you get your copy of the second Sexton cookbook for the Sexton market, Institutional Recipes of Authoritative Origin. The second Sexton cookbook for the Sexton market, Institutional Recipes of Authoritative Origin, was written and published by John Sexton and Company. Now, the John Sexton and Company was founded by John Peter Sexton in 1883 in Chicago. Wikipedia describes them as, quote, a broad-line national wholesale grocer that served the restaurant, hotel, and institutional trade from regional warehouses and truck fleets located in major metropolitan areas of the United States. And through a series of mergers and acquisitions, the company still exists, albeit in the form of U.S. Foods Holding Corp. Now, John Sexton and Company actually produced a number of cookbooks over the years, but Institutional Recipes of Authoritative Origin really stands out to a lot of people. It's made for institutions, hospitals, schools, reform schools, insane asylums, or any other place where you need to feed a large group of people who are there involuntarily. As such, with a very scant few exceptions, the recipes are very scaled up. And while many of these recipes try to be palatable, many of them fall into the category of getting nutrients into patients. Cooking for 4 is much easier than cooking for a hospital of 400. Now, before I continue, I'd like to thank professional food stylist and former high school classmate Molly Hayward for turning me onto this book. Check out her work on Instagram or at mollyhayward.com, links in the description. I promise you won't be disappointed. Now, some things I've noticed about the Institutional Recipes of Authoritative Origin cookbook is that it provides a lot of information on the various meat cuts of the era. And something else I've noticed is that veal was a lot more common in recipes than I ever thought possible, to the point that I didn't even know that our local grocery store has veal on sale or not. And another aspect of the book that I like is that it's not written by a writer, it's written by many people who run these kitchens and came up with these recipes on their own. So these kinds of recipes vary greatly both in recipe types and how many people the recipe can feed. Though this does provide a little bit of an issue, is that there's really no consistency in terms of how many people you can feed. So there's got to be a lot of math that needs to be done to figure out how many servings you need. And this was in the days before calculators were really a thing, so you're basically having to figure this out manually. In a lot of instances, it's difficult to figure out where a specific cookbook was used, but for this particular copy of Institutional Recipes of Authoritative Origin, we have some information because it was purchased by the Commonwealth Wilkes-Barre General Hospital. The Commonwealth Wilkes-Barre General Hospital, which was formerly known as Wilkes-Barre City Hospital, opened on 1872 and still operates to this day. And this particular copy has been very well worn and has been signed by some of the cooks that use it on the front and back covers. So you go through this book and it has a lot of information about various meat cuts and other information that you as a chef would need to prepare these foods. And by the way, I would read all of it if I were you because it's a lot more useful information and a lot of it holds up even to this day. But then you get to the best part of this cookbook, the recipes. And we're going to put the recipes into 3 separate categories. Category number 1 are the classics. The classics that are still consumed in many, many places in the United States even to this day. They've not gone out of style, and justifiably so. Category number 2 is recipes that aren't really as widely consumed. But if you look at them, you could say, okay, I can see this working. Then there's my personal favorite category 3, which is people used to eat this, When I'm making this video, I decided that the best way to go about this is to go through each specific chapter and pick out the people used to eat these recipes and highlight them. So I'm going to be going through those recipes right now, and we're going to start right now. Our first chapter in the people used to eat this recipe adventure is soups. The second chapter is a chapter on fish dishes, and this one gave me a lot of material to work with. This chapter, like Arby's, has the meats. Chapter 4 is all about chicken, even though the page at the beginning of the chapter says poultry and the stuff at the top says chicken. I don't quite understand that, but here we go. This next chapter is going to be examining what the book refers to as quote-unquote entry alternatives. Not quite sure what that means, but here we go. Next, we look at the chapter about potatoes, or rather one very specific potato dish, as most of the stuff in potatoes still works to this day. Next up are vegetable dishes. The next chapter is on breads, or rather one specific bread recipe, as a lot of these breads will still hold up in today's culture. The next chapter is on what the book calls salads, though I do think the word salad might be a little generous for what these dishes really are, and you'll see what I mean very soon. Sandwiches are up next. Though there was a little bit of slim pickings here, there were some interesting suggestions to say the least. Now, there were a number of chapters devoted to what we would consider to be desserts, and let's be honest, some of them are very slim pickings. For example, we're going to be looking at pies, but there's only one recipe that would seem out of place in this day and age. There's also a section devoted to what the book just refers to as desserts, and only one of these recipes would really seem out of place. Next, we have what the book calls gelatin desserts, or gelatine desserts, depending on if you're reading the front page of the section or the top of the pages of the recipes. Even though many of these I think might work in this day and age, some of these just aren't, and we'll see why. So we're going to skip ahead 3 chapters. I'm not going to cover anything from cakes, frozen desserts or ice cream, and beverages, as quite frankly, they all seem like they would work in this day and age. In fact, there's actually one that I'm considering trying because it's only a 1-in-1 scale, and it's something that actually sounds pretty good. But we're going to skip right to the final chapter, International Recipes. Well, that was a fun little ride. Yeah, I've had fun reading this book. I've had fun going through all these recipes. And I've also had fun working on this video, though granted, it took a lot out of me, and I'm probably not going to be doing another one of these videos for a while, if at all. And yeah, this was a very time-consuming video in terms of research and work. I do have a video about some foreign currency for the next video. I'm Dave Farzan. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. I will see you next time.